as we know, there's a certain amount of anxiety or a lot of anxiety as COVID-19 pandemic continues. People are trying to find different ways of coping with this, of course. And so that may mean for many people that comfort foods, particularly carbs, are the thing that really helps. So things like cake, pasta, bread, and others. And I hear from lots of people, family included, and friends, colleagues, and even patients, that they're eating a lot of these foods, much more than they were before. So why are we drawn to these foods? So here's the thing. We are hardwired to seek comfort and relief in moments of stress or need. Biologically, this is called homeostasis, meaning it's the maintaining a state of balance. So we are hardwired for maintaining this balance. But anything that challenges our state of balance is considered as stress. And stress can trigger an automatic reaction to either flee or alleviate that uncomfortable situation. So eating a giant bowl of pasta when you are feeling insecure is probably what's going on with this. So we're going to talk a little bit about some hormonal chemistry, because so many of these things are based around hormones in the body. So here we go. So when we eat carbs, they trigger an increase of insulin in the blood, and insulin boosts levels of tryptophan, which then the brain uses to synthesize serotonin. And serotonin is the calming, feel-good, happy hormone. We produce it at night, hopefully, because that actually helps us to calm down and sleep. But when we eat carbs, we can also produce this too, or get synthesized into producing this. And this is why we feel great soon after eating the carbs. Another thing that happens is when we're stressed, the body releases endorphins and neurotransmitters. And this is the famous fight or flight response, which really allows you to flee from or to fight the saber-tooth tiger. This requires quick energy which we get from carbs. So if you were encountering something you had to run away from, you would want to have the foods that give you that quick spurt of energy, and carbs do that. So because the brain doesn't recognize the difference between being chased by a saber-tooth tiger or facing down coronavirus, both are treated as equal threats to our livelihood. And for that reason, we start to crave the carbs. There's another player in this, cortisol. Cortisol is the long-term stress hormone, and it increases our appetite for high carbs and high fat. So in a crisis like this one, when we're faced with stress that doesn't have an obvious endpoint and an unsolvable problem, you don't feel too terrible when you reach for a bowl of pasta or sourdough. You're not alone, because this is definitely a human response. So we also look at the emotional part of eating, eating our feelings, so to speak. So cooking can be extremely grounding. It's that thing that you're doing, and you have to be very present when you're cooking. Otherwise, you'll burn a whole lot of things, or you'll chop your fingers, which I managed to do this last weekend. And then there's the smell of cooking. When we smell cooking, whether it's the aroma of fresh bread or brownies or a spaghetti sauce, all of this is extremely satisfying. And it may be a source of connection for us, recalling fond childhood memories, sources of comfort, eating with family and friends, any one of those things. And I think we all have those. It's the smell of the food or something about the food that brings back those memories. And that's a whole comfort issue too. Then the other part is about fear of scarcity. So shopping or grocery shopping is extremely primal. It's where we hunt our food. So seeing and hearing about empty shelves and shortages can be extremely emotional for people. It's certainly about abundance opposed to scarcity. So when we see those shelves that are empty, it's like, what's going on here? I've noticed even with myself when I'm doing some of the grocery shopping and I see that, there's a part of me that says, what? And there's a little there's a little bit of anxiety if I really check in with my feelings. The other thing is for those who are not fond of cooking and find it extremely stressful, then planning ahead would be a good idea. And you may want to even do some menu planning because then it's going to take the stress out of things for you. So generally, we should strive to be kind to ourselves right now and allow ourselves some comfort during these hard times. But it's really important to also keep a balance. Because most of us aren't actually fighting or fleeing, but rather we're sitting and we're worrying. So we really don't need those carbs, but we do, we have them. But when our levels of serotonin, those happy chemicals drop, we feel even worse. So we reach for the carbs again, which stimulates the stress response, and so the cycle continues. The other issue, of course, is 19 after COVID. I mean, this is really across all the media and social networks where we talk about the 19 pounds we gain after COVID. So we pretty much want to consider that too, not making that the main issue, but it's something that we would have to deal with later too. So as we know, relationships between food, health, and mood are very, very complex. So a little mindfulness is required. So my suggestion to my patients most times is just stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling? What do I need? And then if you go for the bagel or the pint of ice cream, that's okay. But the idea is just, where am I? What am I feeling? What am I doing? So we want to look at how we can make some of those carbs healthier. So if we're doing pasta or rice or quinoa, and let me reframe that. Let's talk about starches rather than carbohydrates, because, vegetables fall under carbohydrates, so do legumes, so does fruit, but the grains is more the issue here. Grains is the bread and the pasta and the rice, quinoa, all of that stuff. The things we overeat on. No one overeats on broccoli. But what we could do is have smaller amounts of that carb. So if we're talking about pasta, maybe it's a small amount of pasta and then just adding loads of vegetables to that. And some protein as well, something like chicken or beef, pork, cheese, tofu, seafood, all of those, plus a good helping of fats like some more olive oil, maybe some pesto even. Because these foods actually help with a sustained release of energy. So it's not that quick shot and then you crash and then you're looking for that carbohydrate again. It just slows it down a little bit. One of the foods that everybody's talking about is mac and cheese. I think mac and cheese, if you use some of the other pastas that are made from lentils and chickpeas, that would probably be a better option. And then add loads of cooked broccoli or even some cauliflower into this. Well, give it a different color, but it's yummy because, again, you're using a lot of melted cheese. Chili is another one of those comfort foods. And to this, you can certainly add loads of different things like more vegetables and beans. Brownies, I've seen that around and patients have mentioned that to me, but there are healthier ones. You can use almond or coconut flour, which has fats and protein and are fairly low on the carbs. And this, with those fats and that protein, can offset that whole sugar thing. So when we think about this, we want to think about comfort foods and treats in moderation. Not that they're not part of your menu, especially during these stressful times, but as Michael Pollan said, we want to treat treats as treats. So if you have any questions, please send me an email and I can send you copies of these recipes too. So thank you for joining us and stay well and many, many blessings. Thank you.